Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ask Dr. Pickel show. So today I want to do more of a research update. And, when the things I'm about to show you, you aren't going to see on the 5 o'clock news, but they're things that excite me. And of course, when I get excited, I want to show you what I get excited about. And so today, what's exciting is from a neurological perspective. And many of you that know me know that I'm also a board certified chiropractic neurologist. We practice what's called functional neurology. So that's why things that are in kind of the neurological field, especially the brain, the nervous system, excite me even more. You can tell I'm definitely a total nerd. And if you enjoy this stuff, you might be one too. And that's a good thing. So today we're going to talk about basically Yale University did a very interesting study. They took a mouse and they injected a single brain cell. It's not really injection. They actually used a laser, and they basically set up this brain cell, this single neuron, to die. And then they also added some fluorescent proteins into this brain area so you could see what was going on. So for the first time on video, they were able to capture kind of what the brain does, how it cleans out. It's always been theorized on different ways that the brain gets rid of dead brain cells, which I'll explain the importance of that here in a minute. But kind of interesting. So in this video, we've got some different actors here. And in fact, every one of us in our brains has these actors. In fact, every mammal has these different types of cells in their brain. I know I call them actors. Maybe they're actresses. But basically, we have glial cells. Glial cells make up the biggest part of our brain. And there's some different types of glial cells, but specifically, these are the ones that are involved in the cleaning process, the cleanup process. And when we say cleanup, actually it's an immune system process. Your immune system is what comes in and gets rid of dead material, dead cells, toxins, infectious agents. And not only does it have to kill the bad guys, but it's got to clean house too, because you just can't leave dead material laying around in any area of the body, but especially the brain, because that would lead to trouble. So there's some glial cells called microglia, astrocytes, and G2 cells. Again, you can look these up later, kind of interesting. So let's kind of get into the meat. All right, so that was better than probably any of the movies that you've seen in quite a while. And in fact, it was also rated G. So you can't beat that. All right, no, and when you see that, you're like, okay, I saw these little colors and shapes, and what does all that mean? And Dr. Pickel, this is kind of crazy. So basically, there was kind of an area in the middle, a very lighter color, kind of a yellow color. It looked kind of like a little sunshine in there. That's actually the dying nerve cell, which again happens on a daily basis. Cell death happens on a daily basis. And cell death, of course, happens more when there's problems like inflammation. And so this neuron's dying, and then you saw little kind of green things on the outside. That's because they dyed these things. So usually you wouldn't be able to see these things like this. So basically these microglia, these little cells come in, and then let's put it this way: in the neuron, that nerve cell has little branches that stick out from it, so the cells can communicate through these branches, because all your neurons, your nerve cells, attach to other neurons, and they intercommunicate with each other beyond how many times we know per second. So, but the thing is when you get rid of the cell, you also have to get rid of those dead connections. It's like, now I've got a bunch of extension cords that don't work, a bunch of telephone lines that don't work. We got to clear all that out so we can rebuild in this real estate that's still there. And so again, what's interesting that happens here is some of these microglial cells will start to get rid of those connections. They'll start to engulf the cell. They actually, what they do is they come in, and it's kind of like Pac-Man coming in and engulfing that cell. It's called phagocytosis, which means cell eater. And these come in and start to eat things away. And what's kind of neat is if the microglia miss, if it's like, hey, they didn't get that connection, but they got the other connections, then one of the others will actually come in and take care of those connections. It's pretty wild. It's pretty amazing, really, what goes on in our body. And actually, what's even more amazing is how little is actually understood about our brains, our bodies, everything. I mean, when we think of modern science, when we think of modern medicine, we think, okay, they understand the human body. They know what's going on in there. Small percentage, very small percentage. So it's really pretty amazing. And as you dig deeper, as they do more research studies than you could ever count per year, it just scrapes the surface, and then you find another layer deeper. It just keeps going deeper, deeper, deeper. Will we ever find the end? Who knows? Will we ever figure out exactly what goes on everywhere in the human body? Who knows? But again, of course, it's come a long way from where we used to be, but yeah, there's still a lot of unknowns there. Now, how does this really apply to you? Because, I'm kind of course, I enjoy just looking at this stuff and looking at these latest updates and this new information. But how does this apply to you? How does this apply to my patients? So basically, if there's nerve cells dying in the brain, what these scientists are trying to figure out is, how does this process occur, and how can we use that information to help the brain to get rid of things better? Because as we age, that process of cleaning house, of these cells coming in and getting rid of dead cells, sometimes it starts to not work properly. Or as time goes by, we start to get larger amounts of cell death, especially if the brain's inflamed. There's many things that can inflame the brain: heavy metals, chemicals, infectious agents. Also, think about this: if our gut's inflamed, our brain's inflamed. They go hand in hand. But what is inflammation? Inflammation is destruction. It's like a fire in the house. And again, a person can say, oh, I've got inflammation, or the doctor told me I have inflammation. Anytime you see itis at the end of a medical word, that means inflammation. Let's say like bronchitis, that's inflammation of my bronchial pathways. Gastritis, that's inflammation of my stomach. So anytime you see itis at the end, inflammation. So if it's brain, encephalitis, encephalo meaning head or brain. So again, if we have chronic inflammation in the body, if you have a chronic health condition, if you have an autoimmune condition, 9 times out of 10, you've got a lot of inflammation in your body, and also inflammation in the brain. So we get destruction. Now these guys have to come in and clean through that, clean it out. And if they're having to do that regularly, are they going to miss stuff? Yes. Can you start to get what we call debris fields hanging on? Yes. And the problem especially comes in if you have an autoimmune condition, because if you've got a lot of dead cells lying around in your brain that your immune system hasn't cleaned up yet, or missed, then other immune system cells can start to come in and tag those. The immune system uses antibodies, which are like Post-it notes, puts it on the area and says, this is bad, attack it. Now we can start attacking cells in our brain with our immune system from a different perspective, which can create more inflammation. And then our immune system can also start to say, you know what, that dead cell looks a lot like the live cell. let's attack it too. Now then suddenly we're getting attacks on our good cells. Now the immune system's working overtime. Not good. Now, usually there's something driving that, inflammation or infection or heavy metals or things that the immune system just can't get rid of. But if we're attacking the live cells, yeah, this is autoimmunity at the brain level. This can be your like multiple sclerosis, where you can actually look at an MRI and see plaques on the brain. What are those plaques? Yeah, they're usually dead cell tissues that are just sitting there. So, again, it is dealing with these issues, and really, as we look at neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things like that, we've got to think, hey, have these debris fields increased over time due to this cleanup process not occurring, or is there other factors at play here too? And then we've got to also say, what can we do to help this out? What can we do to keep this systems going? And this is what we do here. We've got to find out, first of all, what's driving that inflammation. Because if you're inflamed, there's a reason. If the sprinklers in your house are going off, if the smoke alarm's going off, even if there's a fire, there's something that allowed that fire to happen, that started that fire. Yeah, you can potentially dampen down the fire. You can take the battery out of the smoke detector. You can turn off the sprinklers, but the cause of the problem is still there. There's usually never just one cause. It's usually causes, and it's figuring out what those are, dealing with them, and getting rid of them so you can first stop the fire that's in the house, the things that are causing the dead cells to die, or the live cells to die. And then once you kind of put out the fire, get the causes out of the way, then you can work on the repair process and getting the body healthier so it can do the cleaning process on its own. So when we saw that process in that video, we want the body to do this and do it efficiently and do it properly. So, and there's definitely some things that can be done. Of course, keeping up your antioxidant levels, very important. So what plays the biggest part in that? Diet, eating right, eating good things every day, fresh things every day, avoiding things that are bad for us, avoiding oxidizing things, such as alcohol, tobacco, just anything that we put in our body that's negative or harmful. Eating out all the time, eating these fried foods, and you guys know a lot of the basics of this. You eat good, certain supplements, and it's hard to just say, hey, take this supplement, because every one of you is different, and every one of you, this factor can be driven by something different. So just to say, hey, here's the magical supplement for this, here you go on your way and you'll be fine. I don't want to do that to you, because you could actually take a supplement, because again, I'm speaking to mainly people with chronic health conditions, autoimmune conditions, and if you take the wrong supplement, you could have just made yourself worse. So don't go by the recipes. Don't go online and say, hey, if you have this symptom, take this supplement. No, it's not a recipe book. That's not how it works. For some people, if you're a pretty healthy person, it probably will work for you. But with people with these types of issues, no, because again, we've got to treat the person, not the diagnosis. Treat the person, not the symptom. All right. I hope everybody enjoyed today. I hope everybody was very excited about that video clip, and don't hesitate to replay it as often as you like. And I will see you next time. Have a wonderful weekend, and God bless.